After graduating high school in 1976, by the time Steve Larson was in college, homosexuals were dying and no one knew why. It was receiving national media attention and was later discovered to be HIV or AIDS. It couldn't have come at a worse time. Stonewall had happened not too long ago in 1968, followed by the sexual revolution and free love movement of the 1970s. Which, of course, made huge strides for the queer community, and just as alternative sexualities were becoming a public topic, it all came to a screeching halt with the advent of the AIDS epidemic. Suddenly, sex stopped being fun, it became deadly. What did this mean for our young Steve? Well, he was just starting to explore his sexuality, coming into the realization that he could possibly be gay. AIDS and GRID, gay-related immune disorder, all clouded that, and even though he wasn't quite sure what all of that meant, he knew that it was something that he wouldn't be a part of. It felt like every step forward for the gay community had been erased, and only further solidified the fact that Steve wasn't going to live that lifestyle. No one was simply gay anymore. AIDS tainted that, and made you into a drug user, a fag, a monster, a killer, all in one. The burden and weight of that lifestyle was too much for Steve to handle, and at the time put him into a position where he had to lie to himself, reminded every day of his secret as he'd turn on the news and see people dying. Being gay wasn't an option for Steve. He married a woman that he had been seeing for the past 10 years, on and off. He wasn't quite sure if he loved her, but he was still at an age where he wasn't quite sure what love exactly was. He knew he loved her in a way, but more because he trusted her. They were comfortable together and always had a good time together. It lacked passion, but felt necessary and convenient. He was traveling a lot anyway, and was only home 51 days of the year. Neither of them seemed super interested in sex, and honestly, he really liked the idea of being able to tell people about the wife back at home. However, before they could get married, in the state of Illinois, people were required to get an HIV test to receive a marriage certificate. The epidemic was raging at this point. For Steve and the rest of the public, AIDS and being gay became synonymous. For him, admitting he was gay felt like accepting a death sentence. There was no escaping the mysterious virus either. Signs started popping up around pools and gyms. No gays allowed, in a misguided attempt to contain it. Finally married, Steve believed he could make it work, that he could be normal, live a straight life with 2.5 kids and a white picket fence, that one day it no longer would be a lie, but something that became him. He was attempting to suffocate some fundamental part of himself, something that he didn't understand but didn't want to. He denied this unappealing part of himself any breath for as long as he could. However, you can only hold your breath for so long before realizing you need air. And after 14 months, Steve got divorced. After getting divorced, Steve moved to Chicago and started exploring his sexuality, frequenting the gay neighborhoods, coffee shops, bars, etc. Eventually, this is where he found David. Someone who was more comfortable and secure in his sexuality at 17 than Steve was at 31. They found love, true love, the passionate, cheesy kind, the kind of love that suddenly bequeaths two people with the psychic ability to feel each other when they entered a room and finish each other's sentences. With David, things felt right, and Steve was happy. They had met at a local coffee shop outside the gay neighborhood and had been chatting for a few years. One day, Steve just happened to walk in, and there David was with all of his bags. Apparently, his parents had just kicked him out for being gay. Steve was going to Europe for a few weeks, and he told David that he could stay at his place until he figured things out. He didn't move out until 15 years later. Monogamy made it a lot easier to live during the epidemic. On the off chance that two people would meet during this terrifying time, it was easier to just kind of stick together. Sleeping around felt too dangerous. Gay men traditionally would find each other at gay bars, bathhouses, cruising in the forest reserves, or the lower toilets in Marshall Fields. You see, it used to be that gay clubs were gay. It was more secretive, and straight people wouldn't go just to have fun. Lesbians and gays didn't really mix in the same way. It wasn't really an LGBT, but each identity had their own place in culture. It all stayed within itself and hadn't yet assimilated into the mainstream. After HIV and AIDS started spreading, all of these places started shutting down. There wasn't anywhere to explore your sexuality or find community. It was extremely isolating. The AIDS epidemic drove so many people underground and forced a lot of people to lie to themselves, including our Steve. He still likes to jokingly tell people, I don't think I would have gotten married if it wasn't for AIDS, but I also don't think I would have fallen in love with David. Finding love in a time that made it feel impossible is a harrowing feat in of itself, and it's an oddly beautiful silver lining to the end of our story.